We're going to get this party started. So welcome everybody. My name is Crystal. I am the director of the Center for Academic Success at Pierce College, and I'm also a coordinator for the California Community Colleges Success Network, or 3CSN, and 3CSN sponsors this super awesome workshop series that allows us all to get together from all over the West Coast and beyond and talk about peer-assisted learning. That can be SI, tutoring, that can be embedded tutoring, coaching, mentoring. We all just get together and talk about what it means to be a peer educator and how we can do it better. And we have people from all over the place, from every college up and down the West Coast. We have faculty members, tutors, staff members, SI leaders, mentors. We have them all. So, and students. So good to see you all here. So every Friday from 3 to 4:30 for the rest of the semester, excluding holidays, we are going to be digging into a different topic that relates to peer education, and it's going to be hosted by sort of a different group of people. I am your host, and we also have some peer educator hosts as well that I'll introduce you to in a moment. Although we're going to host it, we won't facilitate every session. Every week, there's going to be a different college hosting and talking about what's powerful and awesome in their practice. So we'll do the first two, and then we're going to take it, we're going to let it go, and we're going to have other colleges come and talk about all the awesome stuff that they do as well. So today we're going to kick it off with one of my favorite topics, so close to my heart, and I know close to yours as peer educators and peer education professionals. What do you do if you're not giving answers, right? We hear it again and again. You're not supposed to give answers, but then what are you supposed to do? And then when a student asks you for the answer to a question and you don't know, like you just don't know, right? Because you're not a professor, you're not an expert. What do you do? This comes up again and again. As a director of a tutoring center, we get this question all the time. And a lot of people are pretty shy about talking about it because they don't even want to admit that they don't know the answer. So we want to normalize that and talk about it a little bit today. So here to talk about it is me, as I discussed. I'm the director of the Center for Academic Success and a 3CSN coordinator, but we also have some peer and near peer educators helping us out. We have Lindsay Lazo. They are from Cal State Northridge and PCC. They were a biology and philosophy tutor and also a tutor leader. We have Ari, our newest member of the team. Say hi, Ari. So Ari is a statistics tutor at Pierce College with me. And we have Lindsay Ann. Lindsay Ann, throw some hands in the air. There we go. So Lindsay Ann is an intern for Cal State Northridge. She was a child development and biology tutor, and now she's working on her postmaster's certificate in leadership and practice. So we are going to be your hosts for the rest of the semester, and we're going to be facilitating today and next week. All right, so get ready to participate. This is going to be an active session. We're going to ask you to type in the chat. Tell us your questions, share your experiences, tell us anything that you want us to know. Also, you can raise your Zoom hand if you need to be recognized, and we'll invite you to unmute yourself. And use those reaction buttons. I can't use the reaction buttons because I'm sharing my screen, but if somebody could give me a little emoji right now, just whatever it is that you're feeling. Thank you, Charles. Appreciate that. Use those emojis. Thanks, Ari. That really helps create a better community and a more lively learning environment. So don't be afraid of those emojis. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. So today we kind of have three outcomes in mind for our learning. Number one, we want to explore the role of peer education, right? Your role as tutors and SI leaders and facilitators and coordinators of those centers. What is your role in facilitating that learning process? How do you respond when students look to you for answers that you either don't have and or are not supposed to give, right? That's not our role. So what do you do in that situation? And we're going to end by generating and discussing some of our own examples. So we'll go today from 3 to 4 o'clock just with that, those three objectives in mind. If you need to leave at 4, that's fine. But if you want to stay until 4:30, we're going to continue on. We're going to dig into the literature and have a good discussion about how this relates to growth mindset and productive struggle. So stick around till 4:30 if you can, but if you can't, we'll be done with this at 4 o'clock. All right, so just before we get started, we always like to start with some community agreements. That's going to help wrap our arms around our task and really prepare for the learning. So here are our four community agreements. Number one, participate actively. If you can turn on your cameras, please do. It really helps us. I understand you can't all do it. I get that, but we really, really appreciate those cameras on. It creates a better community. Turn them on, turn them off as you can. And do use those chats and don't forget those reactions. Just because we're on Zoom doesn't mean we can't participate actively and interact with one another throughout the session. Be present. We are going to do some group work today, but I understand. I see Charles is driving. Somebody else is probably cooking for their children right now. If you cannot be in a breakout room for any reason, that is okay. Please message Lindsay Lazo and they will take you out of the breakout room. Okay, so that way we don't have breakout rooms with like dead space in there. We want those active and engaged breakout rooms. So let us know if you can't be in one today. No judgment. We're not going to ask why. Just tell us that you can't be in one and it shall be done. All right, number three, we love confusion. We're peer education professionals. If people weren't confused, we wouldn't have jobs. So please share your confusion with us. All questions are welcome. All confusion is cool. And number four, just be kind, right? This is hard work, hard stuff. All learning starts with kindness. We have to build that trust. We have to build that rapport. So whatever kindness means for you today, if it's an extra emoji heart, or if it's telling somebody they did a good job in the chat, do a little bit more of that today. All right. Okay. So with no further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Lindsay L., who's going to introduce this topic of what to do when we don't have the answer. Oops. Take it away, Lindsay.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's so exciting to see so many faces and some familiar ones too. So oftentimes when we're thinking about not knowing the answer, we think about it in a very negative way. And we think like, oh man, I'm going to make a mistake. They were going to see that I don't know things. And so this session's really going to be about reframing what that's like. From mistakes to perhaps happy accidents instead. Next slide. So we are going to do an icebreaker. So in the next slide, we have a question for you to think about. In the chat, we want you to write about this question. What is joyful about not knowing the answer? So let's break that down a little bit before we create responses. So we know it's really stressful to not know the answer, to be in that situation where maybe a student is challenging you or they look really confused or afraid. But there could be good things that come out of it too, right? So what could be the opportunities that come from not knowing the answer? That's really the question here. So go ahead and type in the chat your response. Don't hit send yet. I'm going to set a timer for 60 seconds for you to write your response, and then we'll send it all together and do a chat waterfall. So just type your response. What is joyful about not knowing the answer? Okay, I see a lot of great responses. One that I saw that was really awesome was working together and finding out how to locate one. How to locate the answer. Absolutely. That's kind of the work we do, right? Working alongside others to really get into that kind of problem solving mindset. Let's see, what else do we got? What I love about not knowing the answers, that shows how learning is an ongoing experience for everyone. Absolutely. You and students are always capable of learning more, and it encourages students to utilize their resources to build connections with their professors through questions. Absolutely. So not only does it show that learning is a lifelong experience, but that there are ways that we can further connect, especially with professors. It's a good time to introduce office hours, right? Um, to kind of see what kinds of questions there are. So definitely scroll through and see what some other folks are sharing. In addition, and I'm sure that some of these were addressed in the vast number of responses we had. Next slide. There are a few that we kind of wanted to point out. Number one, productive struggle is really helpful in learning. It is a completely part of the learning process, right? Being able to do that problem solving and that practice, right? And it also normalizes that confusion and that sense of like, oh man, am I failing? Am I like kind of a failure as a student, right? It allows them to see like, wow, someone who even has like a little bit more expertise than I do doesn't know all the answers. So it's okay for me to not know the answers, right? And you can give them those tools and those strategies to kind of find their answer together, right? So as you're helping them, not only does it build your confidence, but it also builds their confidence, right? So they get more confident with problem solving and you get more confident handling situations where students are just as you're as confused as the students are. And it's better to just admit that you don't know and that you're ready to explore, because later on, if you don't really tell them, they might start getting suspicious and it kind of breaks some of the trust and rapport that you've built, because later on they might catch on that you don't really know what the answer is, right? So just saying it out loud kind of gets it out of the way and then you can get on to exploring. So we are going to actually hear from someone. We're going to hear from Ari about what it feels like to not know the answer. So Ari, take it away.
Sweet, thank you. Okay, my favorite time of the day is story time. Y'all, I had no idea that tutoring would involve as many emotions as I have since come to find out that it actually does. So I'm going to share some of them with y'all, specifically with regard to our topic today of not knowing, and hopefully it'll normalize some of them, because it's important to talk about the less elegant parts of all of this. A lot of times, especially as I was just beginning, I put a lot of pressure on myself to know absolutely everything about statistics and to be able to answer every question about it like immediately, which was like a lot of weight to hold. And when tuties asked me questions that I couldn't quickly answer, I got really, really nervous and my face would turn red and I started to sweat and I would like stutter trying to like say literally anything to fill the silence as I not so secretly look through my notes. And while I was doing all of this, I was kind of like exuding this like lack of confidence that the 2T would then absorb, and then I would pick it up back from them, and then it would create this like really scary and unpleasant and like self-feeding cycle. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? This has gotten way out of hand. How do I come back from this? And so I'm like scrambling now to salvage this situation and simultaneously drowning in this like wave of anxiety and also feeling really like unworthy of my position as a tutor. And it wasn't until I started embracing the not knowing part that some really magical stuff happened. So yeah, and that's what we're going to spend some time exploring today. Next slide, please. So now I want y'all to think back to a time when you didn't know the answer. Your experiences might look similar to mine. They might not. Perfectly valid either way. Here are some prompts to get you started with your personal reflection. Do your students expect you to know all the answers? Do you expect that of yourself? What are some feelings that come up when a student asks you a question that you don't know the answer to? And what are some factors that go into all of that? Definitely make a note of your reflection because you will need them later in the breakout rooms. Okay, so don't throw them out quite yet. All right, we'll set a timer for about 1.5 minutes. Happy reflecting. And be sure to like hold on to those for the breakouts. And now, next slide, please. We will explore some potential responses that you might take on as a peer educator next time you're in a situation where you don't know the answer. A couple of my personal favorites are, wonderful question. How would you approach this and walk me through your thought process? Or, that's a really good question. I don't know, but we'll figure this out together. Both validate the relevance of the student's question and establish some teamwork dynamic that will take place in the exploration process. So take a minute to read through these, see which ones you like, how you might modify them to make them more like you, and absolutely take a screenshot so you can refer back to them later. So let's take about 30 seconds to sit with this and let it.
All right, so this first video is going to be about the chill student. So you have a great rapport with them, they understand that confusion is great, and they have questions that pushes you that's outside of your scope of practice. All right.
All right, so I'm going to pull up our first video on what to do when you don't know the answer, the chill student version. All right, so here we go. I'm going to share my screen. And then if you would be kind enough to just give me a thumbs up in the chat to tell me if you can hear the sound once I got it playing, I'd appreciate it.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, pretty suave. How are you?
Pretty suave myself. How's class been since our last session? The professor started going over radioactive decay, right?
Yeah, it's actually going pretty well. This unit was actually really interesting to me. I guess I just naturally followed it. I had a few questions though. I got a little confused while trying to look deeper into it.
That's awesome. Fire away.
Okay, so what is nucleosynthesis? And what's a positron and a neutrino? Those subatomic particles, they weren't covered in class. Oh, and what is an electron capture? That seems to have something to do with it.
Oh, wow. Those are some really neat questions. That's some advanced material, and I don't know the answer off the top of my head yet.
Oh, then no worries. I was just Googling stuff anyway.
Ooh, hold on a sec. Those are great questions, though. It's a perfect opportunity to dig deeper into atomic processes because it'll help put radioactive decay in some context, I bet. And now I'm curious too.
Right? Yeah, it was just bugging me, like trying to understand the concept without knowing all the parts.
Yeah, I totally get it. Luckily, last week's class lecture on the structure of an atom actually gives us a really good place to start. So let's start by compiling what we know so far and then make some educated guessers before we venture into the wild yonder of internet resources.
All right, that sounds good. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I honestly have no idea how to make an educated guess on this. Everything I found was totally over my head.
That's fair. We'll cast a preliminary net today and see what we find. And if we don't figure it out today, how about I look into it a bit by myself and follow up with you via email or at our next session? Sound good?
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks for taking the time to figure this out with me.
Just doing my job. Hey, how's
All right, so that was our chill student when asking you questions that you don't know the answer to. So go ahead, Lindsay Ann.
All right, now we're going to take a minute and we're going to just pause and reflect on some of these questions here. So have they happened to you? What are some strategies the tutor was doing to manage the situation, what you would have done, and later on we'll be ready to share as a group. And if you'd like, put some of your thoughts, your reflections in the chat so we can kind of get a glimpse of what you're thinking about. And can I just say the acting in these videos are so like, they should get an award. So the next video is about the no chill student. So this student has a lot of confusion, but they're really, they get really anxious about it, not knowing the answer. And they typically come to you before, after they've taken a test that they've either performed badly on or are not prepared for. And they're looking to you for answers and some support.
All right, let's take a look at the student who isn't so chill, a little stressed out, and they ask you a question and you don't know the answer. Again, just give me a thumbs up in the chat or on your screen to verify that you can hear it, and away we go.
Hey, how's it going? Oh no, sounds perilous.
Yeah, it's bad. I'm about to take this geology lab midterm and I am freaking out. The test is in 2 days and I don't even get the questions on the study guide.
Oof, that's a rough spot. How can I help you feel more prepared for this test?
Well, give me your genius.
Yikes, I'm definitely no genius. How about we look at those study guide questions and try to figure them out one at a time?
Oh, okay. So question number 1, given the topography on the map, how would you draw a strike and dip symbol for the geologic rock unit QB?
Okay, so the first thing you're going to think about here is what you're seeing. If we look at the cross section of this map, what kind of topography do you see?
A fault on this side, kind of everything slopes downward this way.
Great, yeah, exactly. So then when it comes to drawing the strike and dip symbol, we start with a reference line, and then we draw another line to describe the angle dipping from east. No, wait, the first line is the dip, and then the strike is, you know what? Looks like I'm actually a little bit confused too.
What, wait, what?
What do you say we look for this answer together? If we look in the book.
Oh, you don't know this? Because I actually already looked in the book and my test is in 2 days. And I thought if I came to your session, I can't find anything in that book. It's totally a useless brick of paper.
Whoa, I think maybe we need a sec to breathe and think about this. When I took Geology 1 so many years ago, I felt like I was really successful in it. I got a good grade, I started tutoring it the next semester, I changed my major to geology, and guess how many times I went over strike and dip?
Like twice?
Well, first I went to 2 tutoring sessions, then a midterm review session, then I redid my old quizzes where I got it wrong, then I took notes out of the textbook on a few separate occasions, I made an index card for the front of my binder, and I finally felt like I knew strike and dip. But now it's been a while, and it's clear I still didn't make it totally stick in my long-term memory, and that's okay. Now I just know I have to try something new to remember it.
Oh, okay, but what do I do for this test?
Honestly, I think practicing this exact process, the information gathering process necessary for learning, is the best investment of your time before this exam. You can practice right now with me on strike and dip, and then go practice on your own at home.
Even if it takes forever?
Yep, that's the good stuff.
All right, so there you go. Your stressed out student asks you a question. Turns out you don't even know. I thought Katie handled it beautifully. Lindsay Ann, take it away.
All right, so now that we've watched the second video, think about the time you've had a student that had little chill and had a lot of anxiety before or after a test, what you've done, what this tutor did that you'd like to implement in your tutoring sessions in the future. And again, feel free to put them in the chat.
Okay, so 1 minute reflection. I'll shut off the recording.
5 minutes. And now we're going to go on to our third and final video. So this is the distrustful students. They don't really believe in you, have a lot of faith in you. And, you know, they will second guess the things that you say and tell you that you're wrong up front. It's a lot of black and white here. There's not a lot of gray area. And if they can smell uncertainty in you, they will definitely doubt you some more. And P.S. microaggressions are happening in this next video.
All right, so here we go with the grumpy student who doesn't think you know anything. You all know this student. We've all been there. Let's take a look. And again, just give me a quick thumbs up. Let me know the audio works.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
That bad, huh? Well, I'd love to help. How can I help you with this class? Where is it feeling terrible?
It's all terrible. The professor's rude. He's wrong about everything. All his videos go way too fast. They don't make any sense. And there you are the whole time nodding and pretending it's clear.
Okay, let's focus on one video in particular that was rough and try to break down which parts felt really frustrating. Do you remember one video that bothered you a lot?
They all did. I just saw this one where the professor was going on and on about industrial scale agriculture. You even asked a question about agricultural subsidies and he barely even answered it. And then you didn't follow up, so I'm not sure how I'm supposed to understand what the heck a subsidy is.
Yeah, that's a totally fair point to be confused. Obviously, I was confused by that too. Maybe we can try to find the answer to that question together.
What you still don't know?
I mean, I looked into it a bit after I asked that question, but I'm not confident I understand it yet. I need to revisit the information a few more times until I really know it. Learning rarely happens in one exposure.
Well, isn't your whole job to teach me this stuff in one exposure?
I understand being frustrating because learning takes a lot of repetition, but as a tutor, I absolutely recommend you continue to learn outside of class and our sessions together. I'm here to provide structure and guidance in terms of figuring things out, but I'm not an answer guide.
It just seems like you shouldn't be looking up answers while you're supposed to be helping me.
I'm hoping we could look into this together now. I think it'd be a good opportunity for us both to learn something.
Look, you seem nice, smiling on camera and all, but I really want someone to help me who knows science, so.
This conversation is starting to make me feel a bit uncomfortable. I feel like you're suggesting that my not knowing the answer makes me a bad tutor. I fully admit I don't know everything, but I'm still a great resource for this class due to my understanding of core material. Also, every scientist is totally unsure and outside their comfort zone sometimes. If you don't want to work with me, I totally understand. But if you'd like to work with me, I think it would be really helpful to figure this out. Not only for this question, but for tackling other questions in these videos as well. Learning how to learn effectively is the most constructive skill you can practice right now.
All right, well, let's try to work through this one, I guess.
Awesome. Sounds great.
All right, there you go. Last video. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so just so you know, our next activity will be done in breakout rooms. Okay, so if you are unable to be in a breakout room, we don't judge. We love you. That's perfectly fine. Just let Lindsay Lazo know now, last chance, and they won't put you in a breakout room so that we can keep those breakout rooms full of people who are engaged and are able to have a lively and wonderful discussion. So we're going to go into breakout rooms, but first, we just wanted to take a moment. Questions, comments, things that you noticed in the video, experiences that you feel would be valuable to share. I wanted to open it up to the group. So if you have a question, a comment, or an experience, I would love it if you would raise your little Zoom hand and we would love to recognize you. Of course, you can put it in the chat, but we also love to hear your voices. Would anybody like to share a question, a comment, or an experience? Sophia's not able to. No audio. We get it. Do share them in the chat as well. That's totally great. We know that chat is bumping. We just want to give an opportunity for multiple modalities, different ways for folks to participate. So if anybody has a question, comment, or experience that they'd like to share verbally, go ahead and raise your hand. If not, keep that chat rocking. Oh, Sophia can't go in the breakout rooms. Okay, we got you, Sophia. All right. Well, in that case, we're going to move on to our, oh, go ahead, Blanca, please.
I just wanted to say I really appreciated the last video in particular because although I've never had a student like that, I would have felt lost in what to do. And just seeing how she handled it, she was still eager to help the student and offered solutions. It was helpful to see like that's a route I can potentially take in the future if I'm in a similar situation.
Yes, thank you, Blanca. Definitely. That doesn't happen a lot, but I'm sure it's happened to a couple of people in this Zoom session today. And it is one of those things that we have to be ready for because it's a cry for help. And I mean, if somebody's being disruptive or disrespectful, of course, you need to speak to your supervisor about what the protocols are for ending a session if a student is being disruptive or disrespectful. But I mean, you know, resistance is part of the process. And if we do have a way forward, we try that way forward before we step out. We do a wonderful workshop on setting boundaries and handling those awkward situations that maybe you can come to someday, Blanca. We'd love to have you there. Aurora, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna try. I gave my patient some food so she can be quiet, but that doesn't guarantee. I like how the tutors they set boundaries because in my experience, students come to me last minute because they want quick answers and they expect me to give them quick answers. They don't want to get involved in researching. They don't want to exhaust all the materials they have before seeking help. They just want quick answers and go along, get a grade and move along. So I liked how they did set the boundaries and let them know that we're just there, to scaffold them, to teach them how to be independent of us, right?
Beautiful.
So
Thank
yes,
you, Aurora. So
quite
beautifully
often.
said. Thank you so much. Yes, we have to constantly renorm, constantly set those boundaries, and constantly clarify our role as a peer educator, what we do and what we don't do, right? And as you say, Aurora, a lot of students are just coming to you for that answer, right? And we have to gently and lovingly reset those boundaries again and again and help students understand that we are, as you said, here to scaffold the process. We are the guide on the side, not the sage on the stage. Or as I say to our new tutors, we're glorified study buddies. We're here to help you through the process. We're not here to help you. We're not here to do your homework for you, right? So thank you so much. And yes, you get some love for teach them how to be independent of us, almost like you're working yourself out of a job, right? So thank you. Thank you. And as you can see, you're getting a lot of love in the chat for that, Aurora. I appreciate you. Any other questions, comments, epiphanies that somebody would like to share verbally? Feel free to raise your hand. All right. Okay, so we are going to do a little bit of group work. And in the group work, we're going to ask you to make a nightmare scenario. So we're going to give you some space to think of something, just a really scary situation that involves you not knowing the answer, and then work through it, right? So here's how it's going to work. We're going to put you in those breakout rooms. And in those breakout rooms, we're going to give you a Google slide. We'll get that to you in a second. You're just going to talk about your experiences, what you wrote in the reflections today, what you saw in the videos, and discuss a scenario in which you might need these skills, right? Come up with a scenario. It could be something that happened to you or someone in your team, or it could be something that you are a little worried about happening. And we're going to ask you to articulate it in a really short 2 to 5 sentences. And then we're going to ask you to generate some solutions to the scenario that you wrote. So I see that some of you are in there already. So we're sharing this in the chat. Is there anybody who's having trouble getting into this? Let us know in the chat if you're having trouble getting into it. But there's the link right there in the chat. Thank you, Ari. So click on this and you'll see all these different slides. So the first one's the instructions. In teams, discuss a stressful situation that you didn't know the answer to, where you didn't know the answer. And then click on the Google slide that corresponds to your group number, which you'll have in just a moment. So if you get put into group 2, you'll find slide 2 and so on. In those teams, you're going to write your quick scenario on the left side under the problem, like the sample team did here. And then on the right side, brainstorm some solutions. What would you do in that situation? How would that work? How do you think it might play out? All right. So we're going to do this it looks like we've got 12 minutes in teams to discuss a scenario and discuss some solutions. And then we can come back together and we can all look at each other's work. All right. So are there any questions before we go into the breakout rooms? All right. In that case, we'll see you back here in about 12 minutes and happy discussing. Bye, everybody. So welcome back, everybody. We just have a few minutes. There's a lot of amazing work here, and I wanted to just show it off to you so you can take a look at other people's nightmare scenarios and their solutions. And I would love it if group one would walk us through their process. So Blake, take it away.
Yeah,
I
hi,
think it's
everyone.
Blake or somebody else. It could be Christine. I
Yeah.
No, Blake.
didn't mean to assume it was Blake. Sorry.
Okay. We were trying to come up with a reflection of what would be a nightmare scenario. We didn't really have one that came to mind, so we sort of based it on the second to last video. The nightmare scenario is a desperate, anxious student wanting answers for questions on a final exam coming up in 2 days. And our first answer to this was, well, we need to explicitly state our student-tutor boundaries.
Nice.
That we're not the study guides, we're here to work and learn together, right? So, yeah, I think that we saw that in some of the videos that the tutor, the smart tutor was able to say, look, I'm not your learning guide. You know, I'm not going to just give you the answers. Let's work through this process of learning together. You know, that was kind of the first boundaries that she sort of set up. Another thing I noticed is that these good tutors, and what we should be doing, I guess, is really acknowledging and guessing at what emotions the student has and is currently experiencing. In this case, maybe anxiety, and sort of guessing at that emotion. You can't get into their heads. We don't know their emotion, but if you guess at it, they can correct us. And you know, you can say, I feel I sense that you're feeling anxious. They can correct us and say, well, no, it's not anxiety. It's so much as frustration. But, you know, then you say, okay, yeah, frustration, I understand. And then you could say, yeah, I've been frustrated in the same boat. And then you can reflect on a personal anecdote of frustration. And that creates that empathy bridge, you know, that people are sharing, you know, a like emotion. And that it's a human thing, a human response to have that emotion in this particular circumstance. And that sort of helps calm things down a little. And then the next stage is we offering a polite request, an invitation that we can work together to learn the answers. And so yeah, this is, you know, after getting them to a state of mind of, you know, getting the boundaries clear and getting them, you know, reflecting on their emotion, then, you know, asking them where we could go from here in terms of our course together, and, you know, let's learn together. And then finally, we can try to help the student pass the stressful period. We can get them to try to become more calm and trustful. And I think all those previous steps that we were doing before, we're moving towards that goal, to get them to a calmer state of mind and more trustful state of mind, so we can work together for a proper learning environment.
I love it. Thank you so much. All right. Super awesome. Thank you, Team One, for sharing your thoughts. Super cool. I'm gonna now do a little transition because we're gonna keep going until 4:30. We're gonna do some read together and further discussion, but I understand that some of you do have to leave. So I'm putting some links in the chat. If you do have to go, come back next Friday. We'll be talking about a read together and roundtable discussion around student motivation. If you want to do one of these, click a link in the chat. We've got a proposal we're now accepting proposals for these in spring of 2023. Like I said, we're gonna keep going until 4:30, but if you do have to go, come back next week, complete that evaluation in the chat, and thank you for your time and energy. You are all awesome.